Welcome to Being at Home with George during the time of COVID. Excited to be here. And I'd like to talk about this possibility of embracing whatever comes up and generating the hope. In fact, I'd like to talk about hope a little bit tonight. My sense is, from my own experience and from what I'm feeling, is that people are feeling a little lethargy, a little low energy, apathy, sadness. There's a lot going on. And so when we talk about embracing everything and generating a hope, how do you keep hope alive? And so I want to talk about that today. How to get through this lethargy, this apathy, this sadness, or seeming no way forward. And of course, there's a lot of turmoil over in Europe, in Ukraine. So I want to talk about the thing we talk about a lot. We talk about the Hall of Fame or the HOF. So we want to talk about generating hope, which is one of those, but the other two are optimism, and that is seeing optimistic, seeing the glass as half full, and faith. And faith is the substance of things hoped for. Notice the word hope is in there, the evidence of things not seen. And so it requires that we have hope, optimism, and faith. And why do we need that? Because it's important that when we talk about making the right effort or trying to work through lethargy, we have to generate some kind of positive energy. Enthusiasm could be really helpful. And this idea of when I wrote my book, Mindful Athlete Secrets to Pure Performance, I talk about the superpowers. And these five powers, I'll talk about them, but they're like having your own power plant. So when I was at school at UMass, Amherst, we had a power plant for the whole campus. So these superpowers, which are faith, effort, concentration, mindfulness, insight, we need those. We need faith, we need effort, we need mindfulness, we need concentration, we need insight. And the interesting thing is, in order to make use of the faith, we need to have this idea of we got to have enough faith to actually make the effort. Because when we get stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, the freeze part where we get paralyzed, we don't even make the effort because we don't think it's going to make a difference. And that's where the apathy can come in, where we feel like things are out of control and no matter what we do, it's not going to matter. But I'm here to say that it does matter. And the thing that we have to focus on, how we generate the hope, is to keep hope alive, is to realize that we can look at things, we can look at the proverbial glass as half empty or half full. Keep hope alive, we have to see it as half full. And we go from that premise. We come from that premise that even though there's a crisis, even though there's low energy, there's access to energy if we can only find the faith. And if we can use the hope, the optimism, and the faith to actually make the effort. And by making the effort, we become mindful. And by being mindful, we're able to use the insight or the understanding of what it is we're being mindful of to really get things done, to actually go from thinking about something to actually doing it. So this idea, and it's a mental energy, it's cultivating what they call a positive mind state. And we know this from interpretive styles and positive psychology, that you can interpret things. Something happens and you can interpret them. And some of us have an interpretive style that focuses on what's wrong. And the media doesn't help us a lot in that because they focus on what's wrong and what should have happened that didn't happen instead of focusing on, okay, what do we want and what is it we want to focus on that moves us forward, that allows us to generate some enthusiasm, to empower us. So when something happens, if we can see it as an opportunity, it's a growth mindset of there's a lesson here, there's a way forward. We have to look, we have to investigate, we have to explore, we have to have enough hope and faith and optimism to not only make the effort, but to investigate and see, well, what is this and how do we do it? So we get to the how to. Instead of focusing on why something's wrong, let's focus on how to. How do we generate the energy? How do we get to a place where we feel just beat up and we feel like we don't have any energy? How do we access that energy? And we do that by focusing on what we want, by generating, like I said, generating a hope. It's okay, this isn't the first time I've had this adversity, and other people have had it. How did they get through it? And so we focus on past successes. But the main thing is we have to keep the mind at positive, because when we're at positive, our cognitive functioning is enhanced. They call it the broaden and build theory. And so when you're at positive, you don't have tunnel vision. You can actually see. And by seeing and making the effort, because this is the interesting thing about effort, we need enthusiasm or some kind of hope and optimism and faith to make the effort. And then when we make the effort, then if we can sustain it and be persistent with it, as we persist in the effort creates energy. And then we have access to energy. It's similar to what Emerson said when he said, do the thing and you will have the power. And when you get to the point where you do it over and over, that it becomes effortless effort. And so we have access to that. And there's the other thing that I remember that says, do what you know to do, and the next step will be given to you. So if you're trying to get someplace and you have an aim, let's say we want to go to the top of the mountain and we see the mountain, the way we get there is not by focusing on the mountain. The way we get there is focusing on doing what we know to do, and the next step will be given to us step by step. Do the thing, and you will have the power to do it. So we have to figure out how to get into the growth mindset and to see the glass as half full. Then we make the effort, and we make the effort to be mindful. We're mindful. We get the information we need. We understand what the principles involved are, what the essentials are, and then we make these wise choices. We actually create a space between stimulus and response. And in that space, we have the freedom and power to choose. So it's really, really simple, and it's challenging, but we have to work on this. This is like making an investment in our wellness and our well-being and a future we want to live into. We have to understand that each thought we have is either making an investment, moving us in that direction, or taking us away from that. So this idea of investing in our wellness, investing in the future, investing in our ability to be in the moment, investing in our ability to create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, we have the freedom and power to choose. So why not choose life, light, happiness, liberty? Why not choose to see the glass as half full? And then we're coming from an abundance paradigm where our thinking and our ability to see things and behave is going to be enhanced. We're going to have freedom. We're going to have space. And so earlier today, I was walking on the beach and I was tired. I really didn't think I was going to walk that long. I said, well, maybe I'll walk 20 minutes. So I walked and I kept walking. And each time I took a step, I got a little bit more energy. And then I started walking. And then when I turned the other way, well, the wind was all in my face and it was cold. And if I just looked at it like, oh, this is going to be awful and all this, it was like, no, all I had to do is just take one step at a time. Do what you know to do. The next step will be given to you. And little by little, I got to a point where the wind wasn't blowing as much. So obviously it was just blowing for maybe 2/3 of the walk, but the last third, it was not blowing. But it's that energy to do the thing, just take the next step and you get there. That's how we get there, step by step. And staying positive. It's going to be okay. I'm not focusing on the win or anything. I'm just focusing on being in the moment, making the step by step. So that's a metaphor for anything that we do. If you have devices like an iPhone or whatever, we talked about it before. When it gets stuck, we turn it off, we reset, reboot, renew. But what we have to do is understand if we're in that negative mindset, that we're going to see things and we're going to be coming from fight, flight, or freeze and feeling hopeless and helpless. But if we can change our mind and get into use the Hall of Fame, the hope, the optimism, and the faith, that we can come from that place where, oh, we can do this. This is going to be interesting. And it's interesting because that's when these childlike qualities of living in the wonder and the mystery and seeing things, all things as being possible and having excitement about life, that's how we get there. But we generate the enthusiasm and we persist in the effort. And then we get to that effortless effort where we do the thing and we'll have the power. We just do the thing and the power will be there. We do what we know to do and the next step will be given to us. So that's how we deal with it. But we're making a choice. Either we can choose to see things as something to be learned and it's going to be great. We can be enthusiastic about it, or we can be apathetic and we can withdraw and feel like we have no power and no way forward. But we have a way forward. That's a choice.